then I would delete out scenes that didn't have that core, the three prongs. Now, in terms of advice that I would give to other people, friends, I have no theater training. I have no theater training. I do not have an MFA. Unfortunately, I have an MBA, which is crazy. I have debt. I have lots of debt. So I have no training in all this, right? But at the same time, I didn't set out to do a national tour. I didn't set out to create this community. All I set out was my own purpose and my own answer to answer the questions that I've had for so long, right? I did it first for me, and then eventually I did it for my mom, and then I did it for my family, and then I realized in being completely vulnerable, I was also doing something for everyone else. And now, people are always asking me like, whoa, like, isn't it like really emotionally draining? Like, how do you do it every night? And I gotta tell you, this is the first time that I've ever had a job that actually feels life-giving. Where I feel full and I feel alive and awake in the things I get to do, and I get excited. And yes, I spend way more hours doing this than any other management consulting job I've ever had, but it is the most fulfilling and gratifying work that I've ever got to do, because now I feel like it's the intersection of all my strengths that I've been trying to explore my entire life and experimenting and failing with. And those strengths are being creative, focusing on social impact, and being an entrepreneur. And now I get to do all three all the time, and I don't need to, stand out, fit in. Like, I don't need to try to be somebody or ask if I can bring myself to work. Myself is the work.
When I first saw Susan, I actually saw her show in San Francisco with my mom next to me. And I was like, after the show, it was very emotional. I turned to my mom and I was like, what do you think? And she said, you need to be more like Susan. She's like, look how she commands the room. She's hilarious. She's powerful. She's doing important work. So when I saw that, I felt that moment. I was just like, Mom, I think you're telling me that you believe in me, that I could be great, but you're saying it in a very painful.
That's why I made those note cards.
Yes, yeah. I love it. Yes, so just props to you for just commanding the room and your talent and being so masterful. So one of my questions is actually about how, so you've done the show for several times, and then now you're taking on tour and then doing this extended show when you go back to Seattle. I'm wondering how, I sat right up front this time,
yeah,
so
did.
I saw, or at least what I perceived to see, you going through all these very immense, physical and emotional, series of emotions, and I was wondering how you personally felt, kind of as you from the time that you incepted and created this show to how it's developed, and each time in the moment when you're performing, what's going through your mind? How do you feel like you're creating or reconnecting with your mom in those moments? Do you ever in these very beautiful spirit channeling moments that we do see her, and thank you for sharing parts of her in those moments too. Do you see kind of her speaking through you through those points?
Yeah. I would say the most draining part of all this was the development of the piece. So when Sarah would ask me all these questions, I would go write scenes, we'd come back, she'd highlight, and we'd keep writing more scenes. And to share these things for the first time, if I could ask my mom, originally it was 100 questions, what would I ask her? Or, what did she love about me? And to really imagine and create those worlds and answer those questions. Or if I didn't know the answers, call up my aunties and call up my dad and try to actually find those answers. Those were terrible, painful, devastating times, because I would read it, I would be crying, I'd be touching and looking at emotions that I haven't looked at for 2 decades. Then I'd come home and I'd be in a fetal position, and my husband's like, honey, you want some dinner? I'm like, no, just everyone shut up. I just needed to just take care of myself and be with my tenderness. And those were really hard times. I was very emotional then. Doing the show has been really fascinating because before all the show stuff happened, I only thought about my mom once a year during her death anniversary. And most of the time I would just forget about her because it's like I don't even have any real memories attached to her, and what would I say to her, and she's dead, and like everyone in most of my family doesn't want to talk to her, and they're like, Susan, you're just being a baby, like you're so sensitive, move on, like get over it. Everyone's already over it, you're not. And that was very hard for me because then I felt so alone in like wondering why did I even want to know mom if everyone else seems fine. And then by doing the show, and especially like, when I'm working with Cher, she's like, okay, be your mom. And I'm like, be my mom. She goes, walk like your mom. I'm like, okay. And it's like, and like feel like your mom. And how is your mom different from your aunt? And like, what's the distinction there? And being able to see them as peers across that generation, and then my peers, and starting to explore all of that, then I started to see her. And be with her and talk to her. And so now it's not like I think about my mom once a year anymore. Every night I go in front of the mirror, I'm like, Mom, you ready to go to work? And she goes, yeah.
Aww.
And I really feel close to my mom. I feel more close to her than ever before. So I feel so grateful I get to do this work, because I don't think this is just me up here, actually. I really don't. So yeah, I feel close, and it feels wonderful to be a part of it. And so that was the world premiere, and then now it's like, I'm pregnant. Like this is real. Not food baby. And so now it's interesting because now it's that generation thing. Right? Mom, me, Cletus, Sophitis. Right? And it's like, wow, I'm mothering. And I was so scared about being a mom. I was like, how am I going to know what to do? Or also, I think it's that fundamental question is, did mom love me? Did mom miss me? And now it's like I have this thing and it doesn't kick it, it doesn't do anything, but I do love it. And now I've created this new ritual when I get ready for a show, because before, it's like when I didn't have the baby, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do 140 squats. And then I like do all these things to like get in my body and like do all this stuff. And then now I get like really tired. And then I'm like, I was like, okay, I'll do 40 squats, okay. And so then I put in my headphones. And then I've got this new ritual where I slow dance. And I play 2 songs. The first one is the Unchained Melody song from the movie Ghost. But in Vietnamese. I know, that's the ending song when it blacks out. That's the song from Kanha. And so I play that song because it's about memory, and it's like, when are we going to be together again, and it's about time, and it's about connection. And so I slow dance that song because the movie Ghost was such an important time for me as an Asian American, and like that clay scene, it's like forever seared in my mind, But it's also about the other side. Yeah. And what happens to people what happens to people who are alive when someone is dead? Yeah. So I'll slow dance to that song, and then I'll slow dance to another song, which is a really super woo-woo song that I love. And the chorus goes like this. It goes, why have you come to earth to love, serve, and remember? Okay, I was never an a cappella. But the point here is that this is about something bigger. So in terms of me getting anxious before a show or being consumed with all this stuff, like this stuff, it's not about this stuff. Like, last night someone came up to me and she goes, I'm Christian, and I want to let you know that I really felt the Holy Spirit very strong in the room last night. And that's so cool. Like, I'm not particularly religious, but I am spiritual, and I think there is more than this physical dimension. And when I get feedback like that, that's beautiful. And I am not an official spirit channeler in my family, though the youngest in the family always gets it passed down to them. So I'm the youngest of my mom and dad, but then my dad remarried, and so there's another sister. Who has it? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll open it up. Something that is really profound about how you do the show is how you play with language. particularly like for someone who like grew up bilingually. I'm constantly translating. Also, all the things that go unspoken in families, from just I don't know, like food to distant stares to just that weight that one feels. And I'm wondering like how you like actually first of all. You were tremendous in being able to capture that through your storytelling. And I wanted you to just like walk us through your thinking process as to like what moments do you decide to kind of to translate into Vietnamese or into English, how you thought through very profoundly and deeply like having your family members speak, like you're letting them speak and tell their experience and tell like their mourning through that.
Yeah. So inside the cover, the front cover, I wrote a thing called A Note on Language, and I don't know how many people ever read it when they come in here, but basically when I started stand-up comedy about 10 years ago, I would do the Vietnamese English accent, the Tiger Mom accent, and I would play with it and I go, when is it offensive? And I always felt very in conflict with it because I knew I could do it well, but I didn't know when it was appropriate. And so so at first I was like, okay, no, we're not gonna do any Vietnamese English accent. So we're only gonna do English accent. And so when I'm running the show with Sarah, I just felt like there was something very wrong. Like there was something like that didn't feel right in my mouth. And I'm like, what is it? And the thing is as peers, I'm talking to you in English, we're thinking very rapidly, and everyone can understand the complexity of the sentences that we're saying. But when my auntie speaks to her customer in English, she's trying as best as she can she's translating Vietnamese to English, and she thinks in just as complex ways, but it comes out broken, right? And so when you're interpreting it across different languages of what your dominant language is, there's like this disconnect, right? Similarly, there is a disconnect across generations, right? So when I talk to my aunt, I'm speaking to her in Vietnamese. She's listening to my broken Vietnamese, even though I have complex thoughts, and she's like, this girl's Vietnamese sucks, you know? But I'm throwing that over to her in Vietnamese, and she's receiving it, and she says it back to me in complex Vietnamese. So I'm sitting there, I was like, there's clearly a difference across generations. I have to distinguish that. And so in distinguishing that, I speak in English, but when I'm talking across an older generation, I will have Vietnamese English. But when we're talking amongst peers, when those two elders are talking amongst peers, mom and dad, mom and auntie, well, they're both speaking in Vietnamese, right? In very complex ways. So then it's so seamless that I should give them English accents. So that's, at first I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna get this. But I felt like that was the most honest way to interpret language barrier.
Right.
But it's also just intergenerational barrier. So that's that. Now, there are a few lines in Vietnamese that I will translate. Bỏ qua đi, throw it away and let it go. Okay, I need to lay that as a foundation and grounding for you all to get it, right? Because my dad says in the video, I'm gonna say it again to you, I want everyone to understand this concept. It's Buddhist, but also at the same time it's denial. I need everyone to get this. But then there's sometimes when like my mom's like, when I'm like, I want chicken feet, and she's like, no, shrimp dumpling, and then she looks at my face and she goes, sao mặc mày quảng đau vậy? The Vietnamese phrase means, how come your face is like a whole lot of shit right now? and then I talk to her back. But I because we're going so rapidly, I don't want to translate that. And in a way, it's almost like a secret little prize for the Vietnamese people that come. But also, you can just hear it in the tone. You can, there's some things that you can just feel. You don't have to be Vietnamese to get it, right? So there's something, or like when Dad and Kang are in the hospital, and he's like, Jaewa, too late. Jaewa. Okay, I'm gonna cushion it in the emphasis of Vietnamese, and you hear it twice, but it's still very important for you to hear it and understand it. So I'll also give it to you once in English. But really, I want that to echo because it's the lateness and about time and about being too late. Like there's something around war and being Vietnamese that I was just like, it needs to just sit there, and I want it just to sit in Vietnamese. So there's just some things that it just felt more natural to do, and I wanted it to be emphatic in that way. Sometimes I must translate it, and sometimes I'm like, fuck it, it's gonna be funny.
Yes, I mean, I feel that your intention to this both honors your certain family members, empowers them through language and kind of the tone and respect that you have through thinking process of this, but also like catching on kind of the like an invitation to like that it's okay to not literally understand a moment, but you understand it obviously through like how like Susan performs, the room feel that one gets. So I really want to open it up to questions as you have a room full of very excited, eager individuals. So let's I see a question over here.
Well, first off, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your performance, how raw, but also I can feel it's cathartic for you. But, and I can see Sarah's influence on it. I've seen her other shows on ART. It's just amazing, by the way. And I loved how you explained about the language. It is obvious and easy to figure out, I think, and I liked how you did the transitions with the language, because that, I saw Sarah's first piece once, and I got very confused because she had a lot of characters. So how you did it was very seamless and flawless, and I like that. What I wanted to ask is, have you felt that your relationships with your family, especially your siblings, I'm curious with Wendy, I mean, and I liked how you talked about your relationship with your siblings as well as your father, and your aunts, like, is it closer because, and what has they thought of the response to the show? Have they seen it? I'm sure they have.
Actually, yes and no. So Wendy, when she first started, and when I was like, hey, Wendy, I'm doing this show, she goes, oh my God, this is what you're doing for attention? And I'm like, Wendy, like, this is so much work for attention. She goes, uh-huh. And I'm like, no, like, no. And so there is this thing where she always thinks that that's why I'm doing something. And then, I believe in spirit channelers. I believe in spirit mediums. And so about last May, I went to one. And if you ever go to one, you should always ask validating questions, like to verify that you're the one person you want to talk to is on the other side. So don't ask questions like, do you miss me? Wrong! You should do things like, hey, last week when I was at your gravesite, what happened? Right? Like something like super specific. Anyway, so this person validated and I was like, okay, Mom's on the other side. And I said, Mom, am I exploiting your story? If I am, you tell me to stop and I'm going to stop right now. And she was like, oh, honey, this isn't about you. This is about everybody else. We're doing work for everybody else. This is about healing. So then after the session with the spirit medium, she goes, I recorded this on a DVD. Here you go. And I was like, who the fuck has a DVD player? And then she was like, and I have this stone in my bra that has your mother's energy. And I was like, ew, I haven't seen it. But the thing is I played it for my sister. Right. Okay? Right. And so my sister's listening to this and she goes, oh, it's not about you. I was like, no, it's not about you, and I want you to come to these shows, and I want you to see what happens after the show. Because what happens after the show is people aren't coming up to me and being like, hey, you should be like Juliet, like Shakespeare in the Park. Like, I'm not trying to be a theater actor. I'm not trying to be good at that. I'm trying to tell a story so that we as a community can collectively heal together. And what people come up to me afterwards is they tell me about how it resonated for them. A medical accident, a loss, their own barriers with their family, living or dead, like their body stuff. Like, they are just telling me what is happening for them. Or sometimes they don't talk at all and they just hug. And it's beautiful. And my sister, she has really good hearing, so she'll like stand in the corner and she'll just be like noting it, and she'll be like, okay, fine, it's not about attention. I'm like, great. So she came to the show, to the premiere in February, and then Kang, the cool brother, he's always been really supportive. But he's always been like, so Susan, do you have a real job or something? So he's come, and during one of the first talkbacks after the show, right after the show is over, my sister leans over to my brother and she's like, did you really pull the plug on Mom? And he was like, yeah. So a part of this is still, I've gathered information from every single person, but we still haven't talked about it, and so then I lay it right back out to them. So my brother Kang's like, hey, sis, this is pretty good. We'll show it to the other kids. I'm like, can you just tell them? Why do they have to watch this show? Now Hang, the hard brother, he's like, Susan, I'm not gonna ever go to your show. I was like, okay, Hank, that's fine. He goes, but if you have a movie deal, I'm gonna play myself. I don't go because of reverse psychology. That's not how reverse psychology works. And then my dad doesn't want to come to the show. So originally I had Houston on the tour, that's where he lives. Huge Vietnamese American population, I really wanted to go there, and he was like, Susan, if you want to have a relationship with me, don't come to the show. Don't come to that city, because I don't want people to talk about me.
That's fair.
It is fair, and I want a relationship with my dad. So I cut it off the tour, and he's still like, can you get a real job? Like, when are you gonna start? Like, he'll be like, he talks to Uncle Number 9 is a spirit channeler in Texas that we go to. He was like, I don't understand. I talk to Uncle Number 9. I tell him, you have all the education, but you lazy. You don't know how to work. I don't know why. And then he say, you're gonna make more money do this than anything, and I don't understand him. I was like, oh my God, Uncle Number 9's on my side. Yeah! And it's okay. Like, I'm not. If he doesn't want to do it, that's totally fine. Like, he lost both his parents before he was 13. He saw the war. He's a boat person. He loses my mom. He has none of these tools to process his emotions. I do feel like my heart does feel happy when like older generations of his generation will come to the show, and then they'll come up to me and be like, hey, I've been dealing with my own PTSD around the war, and going to shows like this helps me feel better. So I know that there's something happening for that generation, and maybe for him it's too close. So now me and my dad, we just talk about Cletus, and that's like a safe topic, and it's been hard. It's been hard because he'll say things that I don't think he gets how painful it is, but then he'll say really nice things. Like yesterday, he said, Susan, after you give birth, then I will chant for 7 days, 3 hours a day for your baby. And I was like, okay. He goes, and I also sent you a boiled goose egg in the mail, okay, from Texas. If you want to have smart baby, you eat the goose egg. And I'm like, ew, Dad, like it came from Texas to Seattle. You already boiled it. Like, this sounds hella gross. Like, I'm gonna get sick and have diarrhea. He goes, you want baby or smart baby or dumb baby? So he and it goes back to parents showing how they care in their own way. And for Asian families, for the most part, it's food.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have a goose egg that I should probably compost in my refrigerator.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's take another question. Yeah, right over there.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really enjoyed the show. If it's inspired me to go talk to my own family and learn about stories of someone close to me that has passed, how do we be careful with that? Because we want to have conversation, but what was helpful for you to just start the conversation, but not open trauma without resources available? I just want to leave and then keep that wound open. So any advice on? And I don't have any objective to like create my own play or anything, but it just like I just want to learn more about this person that is not in my life anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and you heard the line, which my dad has said before, when you go, it takes me half a day, 1 day to be okay again.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm doing this and it's self-serving to me, but then I leave my dad in this state and I'm just like, I move on with my life, right? It's what I've heard is that as people get older and they near their death, then they're more open to talking, unfortunately. And everyone's just at a different place. Everyone's at such a different place and you can't force them. What I think is important is, I did write down 100 questions that I wish I could ask my mom. And I think it would be really interesting exercise for you to write down those questions and just say, hey, this would be really important to me. I think about it a lot and I would love to know this. So I could blame it on somebody, pass it on to my children, and we can keep our heritage alive. Give them the questions and just let them sit with it and see what happens. People are going to do it when they're ready.
Yeah.
And you can't force them to be ready. You can't do it in a public scenario. You can't do it in a high pressure situation where it's one-on-one. Let them think about it. What I've learned about this generation is they're very thoughtful, and they do love you, and they'll do it in their own way. And maybe it's not going to be tomorrow, and even though we want immediate gratification all the time, it might not happen tomorrow, but maybe they'll find that time when they're ready. I don't think my dad will ever go to therapy. I don't think we can ever work on I feel statements. But, part of that is also protecting you, And for me, I've had to set up boundaries with my dad that hey, Bob, when you say these things, it makes me feel really bad. And if you, especially all the stuff around my weight. And if you say that again, I'm going to have to hang up the phone. And I would do that in college, and he'd be like, what, they teach you at Harvard, huh? But I had to set boundaries because eventually I just got too hurt. So I think there's part of it is how do you fulfill what you need and give them space to think about what they need and put it out there. But you have to put it out there. It's terrible when people start developing dementia or have Parkinson's, and then it's always too late. And it's my mom died when she was 38. It's not like she chose at that time. And how naive it is for us to think that we're going to live forever. We don't know when we're going to die. So I'm 34, and I really encourage everyone to just live like they're going to die, because you just don't know when.
I really love that you talk so openly about your thoughts regarding your own body, and as someone that was born with eczema, and it's just something that I felt like I had to hide all my entire life, and I never really feel like I'm comfortable in my own body. Do you ever, are you at a place right now where you accept your body? Do you love your body?
Yeah. So I did different installments of the show. The first show was just anger, and I was so mad at the doctor, and I wanted the foundation of the plot. Episode 2 was, who was my mom? What was she like? What did I miss about her? Episode 3 was body. And so I started off the show, and I put a giant photo of my fat, and I squeezed my fat in it, and it was just on the screen. I was like, this is my friend Fat. I think about my friend more than I think about my husband, and I started talking about the fat. And there's some power to just showing it, right? Because then it's I'm not really afraid of it. Or why is the show called 140 pounds? No one ever wants to talk about their age or their weight. So if I say it, it removes the power and the hiding that I have around it. Now, I'm going to say 2 things. The first one is the moment where I felt like I got over my body stuff was when I was going through the depositions, and I see my mom's pictures of her last day, her stretch marks on her belly, and I was like, oh my God, she wasn't even that fat. Then I'm reading through the medical board reports, and it said, it's very unusual. Right then that I was like, oh my God, because I'm 140 pounds? And then I realized that her body and my body are the same. Because my sister's body is very petite. So she's 110 pounds. She really is 110 pounds. But me and my mom's body are the same. This is my mom's last gift to me. This is my mom's last gift to me. And all I do is look in the mirror and always wish I was 5 or 10 pounds lighter, or wish I could, this is the year for bikini and all this. I wish and wish, and I hate and I hate and I hate. And then I realized this is the last thing my mom gave to me. Because we donated everything else, and I don't have anything else for my mom. But the very thing that I've been looking for my whole life is right here. It's right here. So why am I going to hate it? And this is the very thing that's my vessel, to my tool, to spread more love in the world. This is it right here. So that was one big aha moment. The second one was when I was having cletus, and then I realized this is the first time in my life I want to wear stripes. I wear tight things, I want to wear striped things because bump is cool. You know, like bump it ain't easy. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And this is the first time where it's like, I want my body to be healthy. I'm so thankful to have my body and be so healthy and take care of Cletus. We have no problems. I have been totally healthy the whole time. Thank you, body. No commercial or product or whatever is helping me. It's just me, and my body's doing what it's born to do. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so happy about it every day. Because now it's taking care of something else. So sometimes maybe it takes, I was living this like young child mentality, very egotistical, very individual, and I couldn't see myself outside of my own shit, which was, yeah, all my life everyone has told me that I wasn't enough and no one's gonna ever love me. And that freaked me out. And I came to a point where I was like, okay, maybe I'll never buy a house, maybe I'll never get married, whatever. I'm just ugly, And then my hot Korean husband followed me home one day. And he didn't care. So I found someone who just didn't care, who didn't subscribe to that. And even then I would be like, Marvs, can you tell me like I'm beautiful? Can you tell me I'm sexy? And he's like, no, hon, I'm not gonna do that. And I was like, why? Like I'm gonna fight you over it. And he's like, no, this is contrived. This is fake. You're forcing me to say these things. And I was like, damn it. and there was a part of it which was so true, right? Because in a way, it didn't even matter if he ever did say all those things. Like, people affirm me and tell me I'm worthwhile all the time. It doesn't change the deep fear and doubt I do have in my brain. So even if he said these things, I don't think it would actually change anything. And I was like, oh, that's a good life lesson, And it took me time to realize it had to start with me. But I really think seeing my mom's body and figuring out that we're the same body and this is the last gift, that was like some profound ass shit. Because then I was like, oh my God, she's right here! Right? You only got one. No one else is going to take care of it. And it will age and it will die. We will all die. But it is the very vessel that is only yours and for you to live this world. So why are you going to hate it? No one else is going to be that vessel but your body.
Yeah.
Yes, question here.
Thank you so much for all of this. And throughout your performance, I really respected how you handled your family members' pains and just like their trauma and how you're able to communicate that while also kind of drawing boundaries around them. And I was wondering, through the process, how did you navigate that of taking their stories and their pains and putting them in the story that you're performing while also respecting that at the same time?
Yeah, that's the fine line, right? Is like, my sister's so private. Hang is so private. That's why it's good that Hang's never seen it. But like, it's, how do I still be honest, but also respect them? Now, at the end of the day, Wendy, you still, the final quarter of the show, you see these things about them that make them so human, so three-dimensional, right? So, I mean, I'm not leaving you as an audience member with, like, they are a bitch, right? Like, it's not that. But I also wanted to show my true experience and frustration that I felt over time. So, when my sister first heard that I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. She goes, you are? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, can I see the script? And so I said, yeah, I'm going to show you the sections with you in it. And then she read it. She said, okay. So there's a part of that which is like, I am putting this out there, and she is extremely private. So there's some of it is respect. And I don't know, if she was going to say, oh, you should rewrite the whole thing, I don't know if I would have done it either, right? For over 140 pounds, I'm going to have to talk about conception. And so I told Marvin that, and I was like, hey, Marvin, do I have to clear stuff with you? He goes, yeah. Okay. So you gotta roll with it a little bit. But I mean, if I listened to all my family and listened to my dad and never did this at all, there's a part of me that would just not, like, feel like something's not right. You know? And I've tried to, like, live a life for other people, and it's very painful. It's very life-taking. So I give them some space to play with it, but
performer nature of this show that you thought worked with the structure of it, that like something specifically about just you up there telling that story that you thought was, because you know you do have these maybe more like those family dramas, people writing about their families, but it's like, you know, you've got the cast of characters, the multiple actors, things like that. Why do you think that there was something about this that you wanted it to be you?
I have 3 answers. Part 1. I started in stand-up comedy. Okay, this is actually like stand-up comedy, except there's going to be no hecklers because it's called solo performance. Yes, because I used to get heckled, and that like killed my confidence for years. Right? And it was just like, so I mean, I think part of it goes back to the medium of which I started in, and that I was naturally attracted to. Second one, I'm a hustler. It's cheap, okay? I just have to pay me and the stage manager, and then the venue. I don't pay pay to move the set. I don't pay like a shit ton of people. Okay. 3, I have no experience doing this, right? So I'm not really a director or a producer or all these things. So I'm not officially a playwright. I didn't like get an MFA. I didn't do all these things that I was supposed to do this now. So this is cheap for me to just prop it up like this and experiment and see and get some immediate feedback and see how it's going, right? So I mean, part of it is like, I'm just not a theater person. And then 4, it's my family. It's our story. And I trust myself to represent it well. Now, okay, maybe one day I will publish a script and then maybe a whole bunch of people can do it. Okay, fine, let's see what happens. But for right now, for the first year that it's out, I'm gonna hold on to it because it's my family's, right? And I'm gonna do it the way, and it's so cool because it's like, oh, how do you think about the motivation of blah and blah? And like, it's like, it's pretty obvious because I lived with them, right? So there's something around in terms of truly representing the truth and being completely vulnerable is I can do it because it's my family story. So it's kind of a combination, right? Like, it's not like I was like, oh, I thought this was the most appropriate medium. Like, no, I mean, part of it is like, I wanted to throw it against the wall. I wanted to see if it was gonna stick, and how can we get this moving as fast as possible? If I did this the conventional way, then I would wait 1 to 2 years to get rejected by like nice venues, right? I'm a theater nobody. I have no experience. Why are they gonna think that I can sell any tickets? So I said, F it. I'm just gonna do this myself and see what happens. And thank God the first few premieres did really well. They're all sold out, so I had money. And then I've just been financing the whole tour as I go.
Yeah.
Right? I had to do it my way, because otherwise I'd be waiting in the wing for people to reject me because people have never seen stories like this on stage, and so they think that it's not going to sell. So I decided to dismantle that entire model and prove to people that it can sell, because people are hungry to be with these feelings where we never have space for it.
Preach.
You know what I mean? But because there's no precedence, they're like, I don't know, like, but you know, Crazy Rich Asians is really great. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But like, but what we have in theater, like, is it gonna work? And it's just like, I cannot listen to convention. I cannot wait for convention. I'm gonna go create my goddamn convention.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Woo! Yeah.
You can find me on the Instagram at Susan Lieu, okay? You follow me on the Instagram, but do not follow me home.
Good job, Cindy.
Hilarious. I love
Good job.
Thank you.
How do you feel?